Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Ah, yes, here we are. Brand new year. Lots of us have goals for the new year, call them resolutions. But let's be real. Many of us don't keep them. Usually 14 days in, I think the stat is like 57% abandon them. Forbes out today with a stat kind of staggering that 1% of us, only 1% of us carry out our resolution for the entire year. It's 1%. We're going to talk about how to stay on track with your goals. And it all comes to the mind, really, what's going on there, no matter what you're trying to achieve. And that's where she rolls with her team at New Beginning Center in Massachusetts. They are an amazing mental health center that offers counseling, therapy, and so much more. She's our Diamond of the Decade. Sherri Alexandrovich is back with us. How are you doing today? I'm
doing great. How are you doing today?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes. 2026 is going to be amazing. I can just feel
it. I'm feeling the same, and it's realistic. I'm not just saying it. And even, first day back into the new year actually feels pretty good, I got to say. Mm-hmm. Like some positivity going on there and positive vibes. So the New Year's resolution, what's the starting point there? We've all been through it, setting those goals, back to the gym, working out, diet, etc. What's our starting point to get it done right?
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the important things is making them realistic. Short-term, attainable, realistic goals. Because when we shoot big and we say that, I want to be 30 pounds lighter by spring, not super realistic unless we're going to be doing some drastic things, in order to lose that amount of weight. So if we can kind of like, how do you eat an elephant? One chunk at a time. So if you break things down into what is your long-term big goal, and then what are our smaller, more attainable goals. I just had a session this morning about that. And what we did was we talked through implementing a vision board and putting down what are the things that we would like to accomplish throughout the year? What are our long-term goals? And then how do we break those down into smaller pieces, smaller chunks, more attainable kind of objectives to those bigger goals, so that we can see each small objective and be able to check it off. So we have that sense of accomplishment. I think when we set these goals that are so big and we don't see immediate results, people get frustrated.
Yep. So true. Right. It's the small wins. And I'm thinking also, somebody will say, I want to get fit. Going back to the gym, going to get fit. Okay, well, what about be specific, and maybe not so specific to where you say, I'm going to lose 20 pounds.
Right.
I got to tell you, the older I get, the harder that is.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, my gosh. I remember being in my mid-20s, and when it was this time of year, even closer to spring, I got to get in shape. I would eat a bowl of cereal. That would be it. Eat a bowl of cereal and go for a jog for 5 days. I'd be like, all right, dropped 4 pounds. I'm looking great. Got more. That would be it. No, not the same. No. So what do you think about, I mean this in a very positive way, lowering your standards? Instead of saying, I just want to get fit, say, all right, I'm going to walk 10 minutes a day after work and stick to it. Always 10 minutes. Or they even say 30 minutes after dinner is such an amazing plus physically to your body, especially after dinner, in terms of blood sugar and all of that. Maybe committing to that no matter what. And now you don't have to worry about the 10 pounds, the 20 pounds, or whatever it is, because that's going to happen anyway if you stick to the other stuff. Does that make sense?
Right, it does. So I'd like to just reframe the word lowering your expectations to more realistic expectations.
Yes, that's why I said lowering your standards. It sounds horrible.
Well, it just, so what it does is it just puts a more positive spin on it for people.
Sure.
And so when you're looking at what are your long-term goals? So instead of, like you just said, instead of it being, I want to lose 20 pounds, it's how can I be in better shape? How can I dedicate my every day to improving my mental health, my physical health, my nutrition, and finding ways to help me be successful. So find a partner, somebody that you can go walking with after work, or somebody that you can meet you at the gym. Because sometimes accountability is a big one. And if we're
Mm,
holding ourselves accountable, I don't know about you, Steve, but for me, I can find 55 reasons why that particular workout is going to wait until probably tomorrow in all reality. But
yep.
if I have some accountability, or I have somebody that I'm going to the gym with, or I have somebody that, I am going to be talking about or sharing what are these longer term goals with, then you have somebody else. Now you're holding them accountable, they're holding you accountable. So sometimes that can be um, a really good way to get past that. Taking a class, even some of these online classes where you can log on and the attendance of it is holding you accountable. If you can't get out to a gym or you can't afford to go to a class, you can do some things that are online where you can find these apps where it prompts you to put in when you're eating, or prompts you when you put in when you've exercised. And then it gives you a little bit of a tickler or a reminder that, you know what, maybe you should be eating at this time in order to have those smaller portions of meals. And sometimes it's restructuring, how are we eating? Having your bigger meal at lunch, and then just having a lighter meal or a salad and a protein at dinner time, and choosing healthier choices, apples and nuts for breakfast, or smoothies or yogurt. And, at work, like I bought a crock pot and a griddle. And so we're making bigger meals during the day at lunch. And then I'll bring home a portion of that for my grandson for dinner, and then I'll have a salad, so that I'm still getting my nutritional content throughout the day, but I'm just changing how I'm distributing and when I'm eating it. And then
Mm.
your choices at bedtime, when you're sitting down and you're snacking and you're watching a movie, and, just finding things that are not as caloric to change what your eating patterns are.
How about tracking the progress? And I know that sounds a little rhetorical, but to get specific, not, let's say I lost a pound today, I didn't lose anything tomorrow and the day after. Not so much watching that, but tracking what you did. I walked for the 30 minutes after dinner today, and you document it, and you do the same thing for tomorrow, and maybe things that you ate. So it's there, so you can look at it and say, you know what, the small chunks, I am doing these things. So you feel better about yourself.
Right, because if your goal is better health versus losing weight, then if you didn't lose that pound like you were talking about for whatever reason, at least you have that success story that you've documented, that was, today I ate, healthier options for lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and today I walked, or this week I walked 3 times. I might not have done the 5 times, but I did do the 3 times. And that's where it goes back to setting these realistic expectations. Is it realistic that you're going to get out and walk 5 times a week? I mean, we're in New England. We've got snow, we've got ice, we've got frigid temperatures. I mean, I don't know how realistic, I don't know about for you. And I've seen people out running and I think, oh my God, God bless you. But for me personally, I'm not going outside in this weather. It's just not going to happen. So if I'm going to keep my workout regimen, I'm going to find a way that I can set myself up to be successful and set realistic, attainable goals. And that's what we do in therapy. And
Mm.
that's what we do with our clients is within the first or the second session that we're meeting with our clients, we're talking about what are the goals for therapy, or what are your goals for your life. And then as therapists, what we do is we break them down into measurable, attainable goals that are going to help you to be successful. Every 90 days as a therapist, what we do is we then reevaluate. That is called a treatment plan update. We look at what have we achieved in those 90 days. Are these goals still going to continue? Are we going to tweak them a little bit? That same philosophy applies to our own individual personal lives. Whereas we're going to say, okay, I want to be healthier in 6 months. What does healthier look like? That means that I'm eating better. What does eating better look like? So it's really just playing detective with yourself and just digging down deep into all those just multiple layers. And then you want to take a look at, what are my barriers? And then how do I overcome those barriers? And it's really kind of the same philosophies that you would do if you were in therapy, because that's what we're doing with you. We're just the facilitator of that. So you tell us what it is that you want to make for life change. We're going to help you to succeed in that. And then we're also looking at not just are these goals attainable, but what are the barriers to meeting these goals? How do we get past those barriers? What do we do when we get up in the morning and we say, I don't really feel like working out today, or today isn't really the day that I want to go out to the gym? Instead of beating ourselves up all day about it, find an alternative plan. Because at the end of the day, if you get to where you want to be, it doesn't really matter how you got there. And I think that people get really fixated on the path that they have created or they've chosen or expected. And then those anticipations or the expectations, the minute that we feel like they're not going in the right way, we get disappointed, we get let down, and then we get discouraged. And then we just stop doing it because nobody wants to feel bad about themselves. Nobody wants to feel discouraged. So we're going to gravitate to something that's going to make us feel better. But sometimes that it's going to make me feel better is short term. Make sense?
Yeah, and tracking the progress, even though you may not have hit your goal, 20 pounds, you did do a lot of good. You became more physically fit. Okay, so maybe you didn't shed the pounds, but you are eating better. And how do I know that? Because I just looked at the journal that, you've kept, let's say, for the last 4 months. And the journal shows that you did go to the gym 5 days out of the week, or you took that walk after dinner for 30 minutes. It's not for nothing. You did something that moved your life in a healthier way forward. And man, the pounds may come, or maybe now, talk with a doctor. Maybe there's other options you may have. But you had progress there. Instead of beating yourself up, I didn't lose 20 pounds and all. I get it. I'd be frustrated too. But you didn't waste your time. That's what I'm saying.
Stories. I love success stories. And I love how you had mentioned that. I use that so frequently in therapy with my clients is if we can go back and we can review our successes, then that gives us that motivation to move forward. That gives us that foundation to say, I may not have done this, but like you said, I did achieve A, B, and C, which are my foundation, right? Those are our stepping stones. And that's why with like New Beginnings, the philosophy is building blocks to a brighter future. Why is that? We need those building blocks. Those are our stepping stones as we build the life that we're going to choose to create, because life is all about choices. And how do we get from the first step to the second step? If we don't have a good foundation, then our steps are not going to be secure. So that's why it's so important that we start at sometimes maybe the most basic achievements, because what we're doing is don't look at it as, well, my goal has to be this big, huge, elaborate goal. It doesn't. If our foundation isn't strong, we don't have anything to build upon. And that's, if you think about a house, what is the most important part of a house? It's the foundation, because everything is built upon that. So if we can just take a minute and just really reflect upon what is our foundation, what is it that we have in our core value system that we can build upon to help to be more successful, to get to where we want to be at the end.
Do you find that many of us don't celebrate those little wins in every area, even in the mental health area? Somebody doing therapy, at whatever, counseling, whatever you want to, whatever form of working on yourself is there, that we don't keep track of that. We don't realize where we've been. I feel you take a look at the last 365 days. Here we are entering a new year. What has transpired? What has changed in terms of your mindset? Whoa. I'm kind of blown away. There are a few things there that didn't work out the way I personally wanted them to, little projects and things. All good. There was lessons learned and duly noted, and it's all good. But take a look at all the other stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing that took place in a year, but we don't pay attention to it, right?
Right. Well, I think that as a society, our expectations for other people and for ourselves are so great that we don't really take a moment to celebrate the small wins or the small successes. But those small successes are what lead to the big ones. And if we don't sequentially move through the way that we need to, we can't get that big end goal. We can't just jump there. I mean, I wish that I had a time warp and we could just like jump into, across all the smaller little things that need to happen to get there, but we don't. And we need to incrementally take things one step at a time. And then, for your own good inner self, you need to like really take a moment to celebrate and to really just say, wow, even if we said 2025 was just wow, is this a year, right? Okay. But here we are. And now I have 365 more days to make different choices. And every chapter is like a blank page.
Yeah.
What that looks like. We can't keep moving forward if we're rereading the same chapter of the book. And if we're going back and we're perseverating or we're staying focused or stuck in that one chapter, we have to be able to just say, okay, I'm done with that chapter. And this is what this new chapter is going to look like. And wow, how amazing it is that this page is blank because I get to create what that looks like. I get to decide what 2026 is going to look like. I get to decide what is January, what is February, what is March. I can break it down into weeks. I can break it down into days. I can break it down into hours, whatever it's going to be to help you be more successful. Because those big, huge goals, those are hard to meet. So we have to break them down into pieces that make it easier for us to achieve them and feel good about ourselves.
I think it's more challenging now than ever, partly because we live in what I call the Amazon world. Click the button, most areas, it's here by 3 p.m. So that mindset, and it started decades ago with fast food, where just drive through and get what you need. Well, think of it. 20, 30 years ago, well, you didn't always see, fast food restaurants. There was a few here and there. Now it's everywhere. So we're programmed to get instant results, but that's not realistic.
It's not realistic. And I don't know if you watch Amazon Prime, but now they have commercials in the new Prime. So I'm watching a show with my grandson the other night and the commercial comes on and he's 11 and he looks at me, he's like, what is that? Well, why is that coming on? I said, well, that's the new Prime. There's commercials now. And he was like, so upset about that. I'm like, but it's 3 minutes. Like it's 3 minutes of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Like pay to have no commercials. And I'm like, but you're right. That speaks to that. We live in a world where everything is at our fingertips. And I think that the electronic world in itself has really prohibited us from having those patients, right? Because kids live in this reality. And I was kind of reading, I was reading on today that what are some of the 2026 mental health concerns coming up? And one of them is the technology world for kiddos and the increase in depression and anxiety levels in adolescents who are on the electronics all the time. Because there's so much that's going on in these fake worlds that they're creating, whether it be, Roblox or, Fortnite, whatever the gaming stream of the new day is, there's like their expectations are not realistic. And then you bring them back into reality. And these kids are struggling with what does that look like? I have to go to school. I have to pay attention. I have to learn. I have to have patience. I'm not going to just get what I want in that moment because they're immersed in this world that's just not reality.
It's a really great point. Never even thought of it that way, where it's a virtual world that younger people have been living in, playing games for years. Now add to it AI, even something simple like ChatGPT. There are people of all ages creating companions using that. Now, maybe there's some good there. My jury's out on that. I'm not really sure. But then there could be some bad there as well in terms of what your virtual companion suggests you do.
And that's everywhere. You see it. It's all over the place. I saw this one ad on social media that had said, well, I haven't cried in therapy in years. And then I met my AI self and I cried and I'm thinking, whoa, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I had a client last week say to me, oh, I ChatGPT'd my symptoms and she had like this whole explanation. I was like, okay, well, so I think that AI, ChatGPT is a useful tool
Yes.
to a degree. They are not therapists. It is not interactive. It is not intuitive. It is going to give you a global answer to something based on, not that the literature is inaccurate, but every single person, we're not cookie cutters, right? We are all individuals, and every single person responds differently, has their own set of experiences, their own set of trauma, their own things that they're dealing with. So one answer does not go across the board to everybody. So when we're talking about this new world of AI or ChatGPT, the only thing I can tell you is please, please be so careful of the advice that you're taking off of that, because that's going to be a global answer. It's not necessarily going to be individualized to what you're experiencing or what your experiences have been. And it certainly should never, ever replace talking to a human person or a therapist or your GP or your spouse or your friends. Because people, have you seen the isolation with the teenagers now? I mean, they are down on those computers for hours. My grandson included, and I'm yelling down, okay, time. You need an hour before bedtime before you to kind of like bring yourself back to center before you can go to bed. But some of these kids, it goes on for hours and hours and hours, and they don't really have any real human interaction with anybody else. And that leads to depression. It leads to anxiety because now they have to adapt in an outside world that isn't like what was in their basement or on their video games. And that really causes a lot of, I think, dysregulation for people.
Oh, sure. And the lack of true human connection. And, Googling things, ChatGPT, like we're talking about here, that's the new version of WebMD.com. How many hypochondriacs, myself, I'm not one, but, I've done it. I wonder what what I'm feeling here, put down the symptoms, and it spits back stuff. And the worst thing you could ever do. It's,
Absolutely, because what you're getting is a global answer based on a couple of different, contents.
Yeah.
But it's not specific to you. So how can that, right? You can't just type out an answer, because if that were true, then we wouldn't be such a eclectic society.
Yep.
That's what we are, right? We are all eclectic. We are all multifunctional. We all have so many different parts of who we are and how we're comprised. And we need to be able to talk that through, because one particular coping skill isn't going to work in all scenarios, or it's not going to work across the board for all people. So that's why it's so important that we just be super careful that AI world does not replace therapy or human.
Final question. We're just about out of time, but it's ruminating, and it seems like we're here at this point. Your primary care physician might even talked before that they typically have, and this is based on surveys, 11 minutes with you. That includes the hi and goodbye, maybe even part of the insurance situation. They're not getting your full story, whereby when you talk with a true mental health professional, they get the background. They've got, something there to work with. What are your thoughts, throwing nobody under the bus here, just in general, for a primary physician to prescribe meds for somebody like anxiety and depression medication, things in that arena, mental health meds? What are your thoughts?
So we talked about this a little bit last week. So this is a great kind of spinoff of last week's conversation. I think that if your primary care has 11 minutes with you and you give some symptoms, the first thing they should be doing is asking, first and foremost, are you in therapy? And if you're not, then you should be in therapy, because I am 3,000% against having any sort of medication without coupling it with therapy. Medication is meant to just bring down the symptoms, to stabilize us in order to do the work. It is not a cure. It is not, the answer to everything. We need to be able to talk through those things, because when we come off of the medication, what do? We haven't learned or acquired any of the skills to help us. All we've done was kind of bring down the anxiety, or helped with the depression, or helped to stabilize one or two different things. So I would say that, for the PCPs who are willing to prescribe, because here in Massachusetts, a lot of them do not. They will say, we need to see a psychiatrist or or a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So I'm not sure about the other states. And I believe in that philosophy because there needs to be a wrap service where if somebody is taking medications, there needs to be an onus somewhere that you're also getting therapy or you have check-ins in other areas of your life. Because if you're depressed and you go into your PCP and you say, my depression's an 8, and they give you a dose of 20 milligrams of Prozac, and you go home and you have an adverse reaction to that Prozac, which we've all heard statistically on the news has happened. Who's making sure that your depression has not gone from an 8 to a 15 and now you're suicidal?
Yep.
There isn't a check and balance in place for that. So I know that might be a dramatic answer to your question, but it's a real one. It's a real answer. And I think that it's important that you have to be super careful if you're taking any sort of medication, that you've got to wrap some sort of support system that's in place to ensure if you do have an adverse reaction.
I appreciate that. And and I remember our last conversation, we were talking about adolescence and a primary care physician situation with somebody I know where that doctor prescribed something for a young teen and wasn't really working. Kid went back with parents and the doctor said, well, I'm tapping out now. And again, I don't judge anybody, but my personal opinion, why did you start in the first place?
It's not only just that, but if you've got a 10-minute check-in with your PCP, are you asking the questions? Are you smoking pot? Are you using drugs? Are you drinking? There are so many variables that interact with an SSRI that if you have a good round support system to make sure that all of those boxes are being checked, it's, in my opinion, it can be negligent. So
gotcha. Need support? They do it virtually up in Massachusetts, but can help pretty much anybody anywhere. newbeginningswc.com. You have a great team up there, tons of amazing reviews. Your team is like I'm not even just talking in the mental health area, just as a company practice, all working together, all on the same page. You have meetings all the time with your staff talking about patients, so they're all working together. Just beautiful. Sherri Ann, thank you so much for today with the insight. Here's hoping we stick with our goals, resolutions, if you want to call them that. And we'll talk again in the new year. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. See you next week.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.